Debbie Green. Grand Rising.
Grand Rising. Hello, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Grand
Yes,
Rising.
another fun topic to
Yes,
discuss, and of
apologies for
course,
the delay.
as you've told
Ah,
our listener, the description, emotional hostile takeover. Now, that's something that I believe everybody has experienced. Either they created it or they experienced it from someone else whose emotions just got so out of control. And I mean, when you think about every
yes,
fight that you've gone through, there was an escalation to the point where somebody just snapped. And there you have it. And when we can't control that, when we can't reel ourselves back in and calm down, it explodes.
right. And it's so uncanny, but most unusual. A lot of times we don't know it until it happens
Yes.
because because it's all impulse, name it's all impulse. And it's certain levels of that, absolutely. At certain levels you have the mild, the moderate, and the severe. And we know what the severe is because it usually ends up in suicide or homicide. So
Mm.
when it gets to that level, that's when things start to get totally out of control. Um, but what I want to do is actually start everyone up on the mile. I'm saying, what if you can think about that? What would that be? What would you think, like, when you think emotional hostile takeover? Now, our emotions are something that's innate, which is we were born with them, right? They're
Yeah.
innate, and we don't really know how to control them unless we have a whole lot of self awareness. Self awareness will help you to determine how much control you have over yourself, because really that's what it is. You
That's
see what
what
I'm
it
saying? Yeah. How much control do you have over you? You know what I'm saying? Over your thoughts, over your feelings, your emotions. Because when you say, I just lose control," we hear that so easily, right? We hear people say that all the time. I just lost control. I didn't know what happened.
I mean,
I
sometimes people
blame.
brag about having that kind of temper where they just lose it. Yeah, I lost my
Yeah,
temper. I said, ooh. Yeah, but what happens when you just lost it?
exactly. Well, one thing I want to let's start in the body functionings first, because
Yeah.
this is a topic I talk about pretty much every day, especially when I'm helping people to understand this thing called depression, and also when things start, when you go into what they call self-harming. Self-harming is just not suicide. Self-harming is self-sabotage, self-defeat, and self-destruction. So, and these are all things that are generated by when one's emotion becomes overbearing, over what they call overwhelming, feeling
Mm,
again out of control, in any aspect, because anything in life can send you there. I don't care. You could be in a grocery store. You could be
oh,
in a grocery store standing to the cashier, and then, you know, if you're one of those really, I call it sensitive people to disappointment, and we're gonna go there too, because I want you to know what causes one to lose control. Is it something right in the moment, or is it something that has been built up over many years? Well,
mm,
the thing about it is, again, you could just be normally, having a normal day, and then here comes a word, here comes a touch, here comes a sound. Something is going to trigger that emotional overflow, right? So
yeah,
when it does, then is either one, some people fight, some people freeze, and some people avoid, which is run away. So
yeah,
because the adrenaline and the cortisol starts to like give you a instant boost. I mean, like out of nowhere, right? And
yeah,
before you realize it, you went into hypersensitive mode, automatically. And the thing about it is sometimes we know when people are like that, or even ourselves, and sometimes we don't. which means it may be a silent hostile takeover,
Ooh,
a
silent.
silent hostile takeover, or it may be a real loud one. You know, whoever has that control, because if they don't have that control, they're going to let you know. They're going to let
Yes.
you know immediately. It's going to come out in bells, whistles, sound, tone, value. And it's immediately like 45 seconds, bam. Okay, they're in the zone. But then the thing about this is, like I said, the mild emotional hostile takeover is this: when, okay, we have that self-control. Some people who have self-control without suppressing now, okay, because those are two different things. When people suppress, that means that they feel something, that whatever that something is, and it may be very overburdened to them, but they don't say anything. They
Ah,
let it, like, they put it like
it's
to the back of
best.
the mind.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what that's their excuse. Oh, I'm just gonna put it to the back of my mind. I'm not gonna respond to this. Whatever this is, I'm not gonna respond to it, right? So this is how they deal with their life when it comes to disappointment, hardship, grief, anger, guilt, shame. All right, but this is not so good, because guess what? You don't really get the opportunity to really process. You're not
Mm.
processing your
Like build.
feelings.
Yeah.
You're right. And so they build up, build up, build up. And one day when you try to do that, put it to the back of my mind that there's no more room back there, right? And so now the meridian nervous system, you have a meridian, that's what they call a meridian nervous system, as well as a limbic system that then goes into overdrive. And have you ever
Mm.
said, like, I don't know if you ever experienced this before, Naima, but it could be a situation where you are like, you talking to somebody, and any other time they seem like they were okay, but this time when you talking to them, they got real irate for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, just overflowed. I think of it like this. If you've ever tried to stuff things in a closet and you just keep throwing stuff in
Right.
there, you shut the door, and pretty soon, you got to throw things in there and shut the door real quick. 'Cause as soon as you open it, it spills out. So, there's one last thing you try to shove in this closet and open the door. Everything spills out, just all over the place because you just try to jam too much stuff in there. Same thing, trying to push things in the back of your mind, or I'll just let it go, I'll just let it go. But it's building up and building up, and pretty soon that one last thing, and then everything explodes that you've been stuffing in there all that time. That's
Right,
how
right,
I look at it
right.
when you won't deal
And
with
it
emotion and just stuff them away, stuff them away. Like you say, pretty soon there's no more room, and everything
there's
flies.
no more room. There's
Yes.
no more room. So what is the outcome of that? Again, screaming, yelling, crying, out of control, not sleeping. Okay, it interrupts the sleep patterns as well. It will also interrupt the eating patterns. Either you're going to eat too much or not eat at all. You see what I'm
Mm.
saying? It also interrupts the communication with your outside world. Some people, that's what they call shut down, right? Okay,
Ooh.
all right. Those are the mild to moderate symptoms that's letting you know, hey, I got something bottled up inside of me that I need to release.
Mm.
Because if I don't release this, it's gonna become very problematic. So that meridian system, that limbic system, which helps us to control our emotions in our brain, is working overtime. So what if we continue to do this over a period of years?
Ooh. Ooh.
Over a period of years, guess what it's going to do? It's going to affect the nervous system, right? But the peripheral systematic nervous system, we have like all these systems that's running at full throttle in our being, in our bodies, right? So
Yeah.
what happens when it then, to the point where everything, that little thin line, just snap. We
Ooh.
heard that snap before,
Ooh.
right?
Snap.
Like,
Yeah.
on the show, when say, when snap, when, oh, she just snapped and then she went on, and she took somebody's life or whatever, or someone snapped
Mm-hmm.
and they went to her kill themselves or kill someone else. Okay, all right. Before we even get to those levels, people, you need to pay attention to yourself. It is so very, very important that you do this. And you need to also know what triggers you and do your very best to work and process through those triggers. Because if you don't process those triggers, they're going to always, always cause you to come out of yourself. And
Mm.
you'll know that you're like, oh, every time this happened to me, I just get so angry, or I just shut down. If you saying that, okay, that means that you something is controlling you from the inside out, from the
Mm.
inside out, right? And I'm not saying that, in every situation we must remain calm. No, I'm not saying that. It doesn't happen that way. It's just that, again, are you processing what you are feeling? Or are you can either ignore it, fight with it, or freeze. That's the way it works. When you fight
Mm.
with it, they're like, okay, this is happening to me. I am fully aware that I am feeling this because they said that, or this is whatever. You see what I'm saying? Okay, process your stuff first. Don't always think that it's something that someone is saying to you or doing to you all the time to make you come out of your person.
Mm.
Because how? Ask yourself, why am I giving someone that much
That much power.
power over me?
Mm.
What's the weakest spot in me that causes that?
Yeah, I saw something the other day, and maybe you can explain what it was that happened. I was at a McDonald's, and sometimes crowded, there was a long line and everything. And I guess the person at the cashier, maybe she was new. She seemed like she was kind of fumbling a bit, and so it was taking them a long time. It seemed like maybe the whole staff might have been new because used to fast food being fast, but this particular location, they seem to be, getting a couple of people's orders wrong. They had to go back and, okay, take that away and put in, oh, they didn't want onions on the cheeseburger. Okay, well, I mean, so it's like the line was taking a long time. And I guess this woman who was uh, standing in line was getting irritated because it was taking a long time. Uh, so she's already, so when she finally got to her time to order, and then she placed the order, and then the cashier, rang it up and everything, and they're back in the kitchen, trying to fix it and so forth, and then something happened. I think they had forgot her fries, and so the order came up, the cashier gave her the bag, she looked in there, she didn't have any fries. Yeah, I didn't get my fries. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't put the fry in there. Okay, so the person, put the fries in the bag. This woman exploded. She said, I don't even want them now. She snatched them out of the bag and threw them at the cashier. And I'm like, was that really necessary? And she stormed out, and everybody's looking like, what the heck? Why? I mean, yeah, we all kind of, we realize they're moving a little slower, but it's not that serious. So what was that? I mean, this was just,
That's
okay, a
example.
little slow, but did it really require that level of explosion and really violence? I mean, she hit the cashier with the fries.
I'm trying to tell you, but see, this is what I say. Remember, I say it's mild, moderate, and severe. Okay, that's a severe area of emotional hostile takeover. That's a perfect example, and we see this
Mm,
all the time. We read about it, we see it, we see, if I can actually refer to an incident that happened maybe about a month or so ago about the man that was hitting the woman when she was coming to get her food, and right there in
yeah,
Chi-Town, in Chicago, right? And he
yeah,
was,
yeah,
threatening her. If she didn't shut up, blah blah blah, he was going to do this and do that.
yeah.
And he hit it. Yeah, okay, it's the same example. That is a perfect example of a hostile emotional takeover. And that's exactly what people do. And you say, well, how do irrational, how did that happen? Or they didn't think, no, you're right, they don't think. Okay,
Oh,
remember what I said, it's all emotional. People think there's a small area of thought, but
mm,
it's a big area of emotion. Now, the thing about this is they've been building up, building up, building up, building up. And this is a pattern of them, which is anger. That's anger
Mm,
comes in many, many arrays and fashions. And that was a person that was angry. They were angry before they got there. They have no emotional control. None.
yeah, they were
None.
they got
When
there.
they act out like that in front of other people, they have no those are walking, breathing landmines.
Ooh. Now
That's what they are.
I have another question because a lot of people experience domestic violence with someone
Yes.
who otherwise is peaceful. But then if they do something like drink alcohol, it's like they become
Right.
the other person where all this anger and violence is released. Now, is that someone
Yes.
because maybe for social reasons has been taught to suppress anger or not allowed to show anger, but then when they drink the alcohol, that releases the inhibitions and they explode and all the things that they've been holding back. Is that what's happening when they become that other person after they drink and they all that anger that you never see when they're sober? Maybe when they're sober, they're really nice, mild mannered, they just take all kinds of things. But then when they get drunk, it's like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing. That horrible person comes out.
Mhm.
Is that what that is? That they release all of that once the alcohol takes over the brain or whatever
And
happens.
we call it liquid courage.
Ah, liquid
Liquid
courage.
courage. Liquid
Mm.
courage, my dear. Liquid courage. And a drunk man never lies. It's truth
Ooh,
serum.
what is it?
So really
Drunk
that's who he
man speaks
really
sober.
is. So you got
Yes.
the pretender that you don't. That's right. Every drink, because they
Mm,
don't know when you are intoxicated, you don't lie. So whatever comes out,
mm,
it comes out. Now, really and truly, that's how he truly feels when when he or she is intoxicated, and all the the emotions, anger, whatever comes out. That's how they truly feel. That's how they feel, right?
mm.
So when that is over, when they come back to themselves as the sober person, oh, they're going to wail, they're going to cry, they're going to beg, they're going to feel so bad.
I'm so
Oh, I'm so
sorry.
sorry, blah, 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 blah. And we see this all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Emotional hostile takeover. Now, that's
Wow.
drug induced, that's alcohol and substance drug induced. But
Mm-hmm.
deep down inside, that is the way they feel. That's the matter of fact, that's who they are. Let's just keep it simple. That's who they
Mm.
are. And a lot of people cannot drink. They do not need any alcohol because it totally transforms them. They're not the same kind of person. It affects their brain. They don't need anything at all. Period.
So, have you had the experience of counseling, perhaps a couple where that is the case at the root of the domestic violence, and you hear somebody say, "Oh, well, he's okay as long as he's not drinking," and that other person who drinks, they will, hey, I have a right to drink. I like to drink,
Right.
but you can see that, like you say, that alcohol is liquid courage, giving them the courage to say what they really feel that for whatever reason they don't feel they can say when they're sober, or they're afraid to say when they're sober. And that is the core of the problem, is that their fear of speaking the truth when they're sober and facing the other person's perhaps disapproval of their emotions. What have you seen with that?
Right. Well, from my experience, Naima, I see that I've seen it several times over the years where it's not just alcohol but drug induced, totally. Well, they totally change the factor of like they're when they're sober. Let me say it like this: when they're sober, they can talk about what's wrong and how they want to change and how they think that it's them. You know what I'm saying? They even blame themselves. They start self-defeating, self-sabotage because they know they're self-destructive and self-harming. Now, but that doesn't mean they're going to change. They'll tell the truth, but that
Mm,
doesn't mean they're going to change. So the other person, which is the partner, the wife, or what have you, what they do, they give them all of this rope. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, maybe he or she will change, you know. Maybe they won't hit me again. Maybe they won't call me out my name or disrespect me or whatever the case may be. Mm. But this is a pattern. It's a
Mm.
pattern. And when you see a pattern is not easily broken because it becomes an emotional addiction. That's the reason why I was saying that. It's emotional addiction because you've been doing it repetitively and you have
Mm.
trained yourself. You literally have created a negative repetitive action cycle. Remember, it's a vicious cycle. It's vicious and it affects everything, everyone around you. And the
Yeah.
thing about this is either you're going to realize that it is, like I said, you could tell the truth, but if you're not changing, what's the use of coming clean? There is no use. Now, if you want to change, that means you would have to definitely stop the addiction. That means you're going to go through withdrawals. And the crazy part about this is even when alcohol or drugs are not involved, don't you know people have withdrawals to anger? They have withdrawals to guilt. They have
Mm.
withdrawals to shame because it becomes toxic. Anything
Mm.
that's toxic becomes an addiction.
Wow.
Even
Well,
food is addiction, but you also have withdrawals. Because remember, withdrawals are anything talking about when the body, the mind, the spirit has to change energies. So if it's used to this type of energy, this type of action, this type of behavior for a period of time, so now it has to be reprogrammed and all the energy has to change. So the old energy is constantly clashing with the new energy that's trying to come in. And that's where they struggle. Physical, like with withdrawals for alcohol, let me give an example. You get DTs, right? And those DTs are flu-like symptoms. The body starts to get sick and feel achy and like you're having this worst type of flu imaginable. You even will start vomiting. You will start having diarrhea. All of these things. And all you want, if you take that next drink, it just stops. Okay,
mm.
that's substance abuse. So let's take it a little deeper. Anger. Anger is an emotion. Anger is an emotion. And when you say, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I'm addicted to anger? Yes, you can. Because you have been responding in it. Anything we're responding on a repetitious cycle, we're building an addiction whether we realize it or not.
Wow.
It's either
So
a
that
good
person.
addiction or a
Mm.
negative one. That's all. You see what I'm
Wow.
saying? So if I keep responding to my anger the same way, I am creating a cycle which is going to be eventually a emotional hostile takeover.
Mm.
So wait, because remember the word emotion erosion that we had on the last show?
Yes.
Emotion erosion. That means that now that stuff is festering. It's festering, it's creating things in the mind, it's creating things in the spirit. And because it's done repetitiously, now you're always irritated, agitated for no reason. You don't even know why, because those are moods of anger, irritation, agitating, frustrating. And this is all you, everything hypersensitively bothers you. The phone ringing too much, the dog barking too much, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So you get irritated. You don't even know why you're irritated, but it's because of that anger emotion not being finalized inside of you because you're not working through your anger. Anger is on the top of external, internal pain. The pain is
Mm.
underneath all that anger. But because you had never dealt with your stuff, you still hypersensitive.
Wow. Well, I got a question. I know we got to take a break, but I got to take. I'll ask the question after the break because I've seen so many families where everybody's adjusting to that person who's subject to explode, and
Right.
so like you're walking on eggshells all the time because you know that any little thing can trigger them, and that's who they are. But then, like you say, they're affecting everybody. because everybody
Hmm.
always living in stress. Well, we'll talk about that when we come back, and maybe we talk about
Okay.
where does that develop from? What is that? And
And I want to give you some techniques on how to eliminate it because you
yeah,
definitely need to
that's nothing
change
you
it.
want to live with every day. Well, we'll be right
Mm-mm.
back after this quick break. And if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1. That lights your number up on our switchboard. We know you have something to say. And if you're on our switchboard now and have something to say or a question to ask for Dr. Debbie Green, press 1. And we will be right back after this break. So stay with us. We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, the earth will be populated by a new generation of adults, many of whom are yet unborn. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for fellow human beings in the next generation of children, they will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. Go to www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com. Hey, it's time to take charge of your health. I'm Viata, your holistic life coach, and every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'm here on the Female Solution to empower you to make choices that will assist your evolution to abundant health.
Get off of my plant.
Evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Healing, where I bring you a spiritual chiropractic adjustment to bring you back into alignment with our Creator's love, compassion, and wisdom.
You touch
Join
that
me
plant, I'm
every
gonna bust you open.
day
Don't you touch that plant.
for a time of unity, enlightenment, and vibration. Shalom.
Ooh.
All right. We are
Welcome
back.
back. Welcome back to Soulful Solution. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, and with my wonderful co-host Naima Latif, with the Female Solution. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And our topic is emotional addiction, which is emotional hostile takeover. Have you been a victim of emotional hostile takeover? And if you said no, well, just live a little bit longer. Don't worry, it's coming. It happens. Everyone has experienced it. Mild, moderate, or severe. It's just it's a normal reaction in life. But when it becomes when it comes troublesome, is when you can't change it and when you feel like powerless dealing with it.
Mm.
So you had a question before we went to break. What was that?
I have known people who lived in households where there was one person, often the father, but sometimes even the mother. One of the people had this awful temper where it would turn violent. And everybody in the household was always afraid that they were going to explode. And the slightest trigger, whether it was, they come home from work and oh, you didn't wash the dishes, or come home from work and oh, you didn't take out the trash, or it just uh it just was impossible to live without fear.
Right,
And if something, just the whole family was always in a state of nervousness, because if that person was angry, they would explode at the person they were angry with, and then everybody else in the household. And if they was one of those parents that were into beating their children, oh well, everybody gets a beating, you all didn't
right.
you all didn't mop this floor. I mean, it's just, and that kind of a life, growing up in a household like that, how does that affect a person in adulthood? If you had a parent like that who was angry and abusive, and you always had to just about walk around on tiptoe to make sure they didn't explode and become violent, what does that do to you as an adult person? What kind of anxieties could that create in you if you lived like that? And maybe the person was pleasant as long as they weren't angry, but if they flipped out, oh no, you terrorized. What does that do to a person living like that?
Yeah. Well, living with a very emotional parent or a caregiver or what have you, when you live with people who have issues controlling their emotions, and that's what like it feels like you're walking on eggshells. Okay, and that's the term we use when fear is very high. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
uh, with children, Naima, as early as 3 years old, they if they are exposed to screaming, yelling, arguing, um, any type of verbal, emotional, physical situations, it definitely will change who they are. They become more hypersensitive, more emotional than most with situations in their life as they become an adult. They become more nervous. I've seen people; their nervous systems are really impulsive, and also is a strong chance of them creating an addiction, because most children that come from, and we know this statistically, I would say about 30% at least, children that are raised in any type of volatile or emotional kind of unsettling way. I'm trying to put it in words people will understand. Um, they create coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are drugs, sex,
Mm.
shopping, any addiction that even hoarding, any addictions in that area. They literally create something outside of themselves to compensate those areas of pain, because that's pain. That's pain. And now remember, a child cannot come and say to a parent or a caregiver or anyone, whoever, oh, I don't want to hear this. You need to be quiet, or don't
Right.
talk to me that way, or you know what I mean?
Right.
You have some parents are really conducive. They take the time and say, well, let me not argue, and let's argue, not argue in front of little Johnny, because we don't want to affect him. All right,
Right.
so they may
Most
not
parents.
see it,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean they don't pick up the energy. Let me stop right there, okay? Because
Hmm.
this is very important. Most parents think if they don't argue in front of their children that their children don't know.
They
You
feel.
can't possibly believe that.
Yeah.
Just because they don't hear you, that don't mean they don't pick up your energy.
Right.
You could
Yeah.
be in two
The
rooms
silence.
over arguing. It is not just they literally pick up the energy because energy doesn't dissipate, it expands, right? Okay,
Yeah.
let me prove my point. I was counseling a family some time ago, and this family always, the mother and the father had two kids, and they always would say, oh, we don't argue in front of our kids because we don't get along. Now they're getting ready to go through a divorce. Didn't
Mm,
tell their children at all. Now their
mm,
children are in the way. One was 12 and the other one was 16. They didn't
wow.
tell their children at all, right? And they were married for 12 years.
Wow. And they
Okay?
didn't tell the
So,
truth they were
no,
having
they
problems.
didn't tell it to, no, because in their mind, they figured they're like, oh no, we're not going to tell them. We're going to handle this on our own. And,
Mm, mm.
and I asked him, I said, when did you not realize that you were not the only person in this family? When did you not realize that?
Mm.
When you thought two human beings that were breathing around you, what did you call them? Because you couldn't have
Ooh.
called them children. You couldn't have
Ooh.
called them loved. You
Ooh.
couldn't have called them that. So you were in really volatile, because they were violent with their words, not their physical actions. I said you
Yeah.
were in this volatile relationship that now is resulted to a divorce. All this
Mm.
time you thought your children didn't know. So lo and behold, I had the everybody in the room, because it was just first it
Family.
was the parents and it was all of the kids.
Mm.
Right, it was the two kids, right? One was 12, one was 16. So the one was 16, he was kind of laid back. He like, I don't care, whatever, because he said, I've been knowing since 8 years old that they didn't get along.
Ooh.
And the 12-year
They-
old says, that's why I don't want to go back home. She
Ooh.
had
Oh.
problems going, and she's like, I don't want to live here because this place, it's not my home. I don't even feel like it's a home.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
dad, I don't even trust you anymore. I mean, it just came on out of her. This was the first time that their children ever spoke about their relationship. So
Mm.
he's over here, the father, he's over here broken and crying. I didn't know. And the mother, she's over here, she's crying. All this time, I said, did you not think that you're gonna live around breathing human beings and they don't pick up none of your energy, whether you
Yeah.
speak or not?
That's what people don't know. They don't realize that even if you say nothing energetically, you're affecting the atmosphere, that people can feel anger, they can feel repressed rage, they can feel resentment. And children, so is that kind of like children living in toxic energy where there's always this
Yeah.
underlying tension or stress or anger, resentment, and you're feeling it every day in the house? Is that, I guess you could
And that will
give a
change the
valid
brain
analogy if you're
chemistry.
like with, mold in the house or something, toxic fumes or something. I mean, it's
Yeah.
making you emotionally, it's making you sick because you're feeling it all the time.
Okay. That's why I said it will change your brain chemistry. It
Wow.
will. This is when, and I mean, it starts at such a young age, Naima, as early as 4 years old. Okay, you will be surprised how living in a toxic, emotional, overwhelming environment will change a person's life. Now, the thing about this is, as they get older, they're either going to seek therapy and work their situations out, or they're just going to just I think I had one of my clients. She said, "I just thought I had to deal with it. I never
Mm,
knew I could get over it. I
wow.
never knew that I could be free from it. I just thought I had to deal with it." So now here I am at 38 years old, and I have a career. I have a family, and I'm
Yeah.
still hurting. I'm still broken. I'm still
Mm,
by this situation because it
wow.
has changed me. It has changed me. It changed me in so many ways to I don't even know who I am anymore. First thing first, people lose their identities when there's an emotional hostile takeover, whether it is in their family lineage, in their generations, or either in themselves. They lose their identity because guess what? You don't know who you are anymore because you're so hypersensitive to your emotions.
Mm.
You don't know. And I heard this so many times. I don't know how to control myself. I don't know who I am
So,
because I'm
in
so sensitive to my emotions. Now remember,
wow.
you just said something vital. You said that what happens in a family or with families or with children that
Mm-hmm.
are in this environment where I got to walk on eggshells. I was
Mm-hmm.
taught to walk on eggshells. Now listen to that carefully. If you this is all you know, and when the eggshells are no longer there, in other words, when all of the emotions that you have been trained,
Impressive.
reprogrammed,
Yeah.
exposed, I can use a lot of words, to for a number of years in your life, what do you think
Wow.
it's going to do? It's going to, so when you do
Mm.
have a state of mind of peace or environment of peace, you still walking on eggshells.
Still nervous, still apprehensive, still hypersensitive.
Yeah,
I
because
think,
it's a trained mechanism. It's like an animal can be trained at anything. Okay, guess what? So can a human being.
wow. I think of a lot of relationships, and I've had friends who stayed in toxic relationships, and they say, "Well, I stayed for the children." And yet the children knew that, number one, they were unhappy, and number two, that the household was uncomfortable because you're always worried about this person that may come home drunk and turn violent, or come home angry and turn violent. You're always feeling the tension in the house. But then the person says, "Well, I stayed for the children." Is that, and our society pushes that and makes you feel like you failed if you get out of a toxic marriage. So I've known many people who stayed where they were unhappy, uncomfortable, and always on edge because they believed it was best for the children. So was
Huh.
that a bad idea? And
Yes.
what's I would think so. So the children then are living in toxicity,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
that's all they know in terms of what a marriage feels like, is always feeling nervous and scared and apprehensive, and never knowing when the next outburst is going to be. So is that, I mean, are we seeing like, I don't know if you call it an epidemic, but is that a pattern with a lot of adults now, that they lived in households like that where it was just toxic and people wouldn't
Yes.
leave? Mm.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the thing about this is, remember, one can get comfortable in anything. Okay,
Wow.
with repetition, I can get comfortable in pain. With
Ooh.
repetition, if I do it every day, I can get comfortable with pain. I can get comfortable with anger. I can get comfortable with fear. I can get comfortable with guilt,
Mm.
right?
That's
Whatever
a good.
you adapt to is going to persist. It's going to keep going. And so
Mm.
in this situation here, as this is an adaptation mentally, emotionally, oh, it's wearing out the nervous system. Trust me. Okay. It's where the nervous system and our nervous system can take so long before it starts to crumble and break, right? Now, when it crumbles and break, here comes sickness, mental illness. It's the first sickness you're going to experience. The next sickness is called physical sickness. Your again, your ADLs, activity of daily living, is going to change. That's going to be your first signs and whistles, your mind and your body. Now we ain't dealing with your spirit and your heart just yet, because that the heart is the one that holds it. It holds it. It holds it until the capacity, till it can't do anymore. And I hate to always reflect on something negative to prove my point, but the reason why I do this is because I don't want people to get to that level. So you ever heard of this family? And we hear it all the time. Oh, they seem to have a beautiful relationship. You don't hear any yelling, no arguing, and nothing going on. But then you then realize that someone in the family, whether it's the children, the husband, the wife, or whoever, has took a gun and killed everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. What's up
All
with
right.
that? Everybody always said, the neighbors always said, but they were so nice. They were quiet. So there it's
What
like
did I
there's no
say
warning.
earlier? I said it can also be silence, emotional
Ooh.
hostile takeover. See, that's the
Ooh.
most deadly one. It's the ones you don't know about. And a
Mm.
lot of time people they hold stuff inside like volcanoes, okay?
Yeah.
And everything is rolling and going on, and and if they feel victimized. See, victimization feeds an emotional hostile takeover, because you
Mm.
you you are a victim to the words, you are a victim to the sounds, you are a victim to the actions, you see what I'm saying?
Wow.
Of another human being or wherever it's coming from. It could be coming from your workplace. It could be coming from your past. It could be coming from your present moment, but you still are a victim to it. So what happens when you become a victim to it? You feel you can't escape
Yeah.
without either dying or removing that stimuli that's causing you to feel like you're being attacked. So in
Wow.
your mind, if I remove it, and a person this is when mental illness and takes on to a whole nother level. And I think people get mental illness so confused with just bipolar, schizophrenia, no, sociopath. If you ever
Mm.
heard of that, sociopath, a
So,
sociopath becomes emotionless when it comes to themselves and to another human being. So it's easy for them to do what it is, snap and take someone's life, because they have no emotional control at
wow.
all. Rationale. The only thing they're rationalize is the plan to execute.
Ooh.
Do you see what I'm
Wow.
saying? Okay. So that's the worst. Those are severe cases. I was starting on the
But
mild
see,
cases is, hold on 1 second, let me say this real quick. Mild cases is when you get upset and you can't control your emotions. And
yeah.
and
Cut
you just
somebody out.
you go
Yeah.
from 0 to 100 like this,
Yeah.
like this, and you like, and
Yeah.
they say, why are you so angry? And you like see people, oh, I don't talk to her because I can't talk to her. If I might say something wrong. You go
Yeah.
from 0 all the way to 100 real fast. Okay.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
may
We
think
don't.
that's normal. You
Mm.
may think that's normal because that's your world. But guess
Mm.
what? It ain't normal. Okay. One of
Mm.
these days, you're going to do something that you're going to really regret. So you better
Yeah.
take some deep breaths and get some self responsibility and some self awareness to save your life. Save your
Yeah.
life from sickness, mental illness.
Yeah.
Save your life first. Because if you don't save your life, I guarantee you it's going to keep building up. You're going to end up saying the wrong thing to hurt somebody or doing the wrong things to hurt somebody.
Well, I'm seeing so many cases where somebody that you just described, that person who's liable to flip off of somebody. They
Mm.
flip out of the wrong person, and maybe the person got the same issue they got, but then next thing you know, somebody's pulled out a weapon and shot somebody dead
Yeah.
over something little. And you wonder how
Yes.
it happened. A traffic situation, what road rage, whatever. Somebody doing something little, and then they argue. Well, like the example that you mentioned earlier with the restaurant. The man. If you say one more thing, I'm gonna knock you out. And then next thing you know, he's hitting her, and then her son goes gets the gun and he's dead. So I see those situations happen. We see it all the time in the news. Some little incident escalates, and next thing you know, there's a fatal action by somebody who
Right.
just.
Right.
And so now people are well, the problem that I see, you have a society that too many people are walking on eggshells. If you
Right.
go
That's
to
what
the
I'm
grocery
saying.
store,
Yes,
somebody
ma'am.
might pull out a gun,
Hmm.
afraid to go to school. I mean, I'm looking at the
Yes.
insanity of active shooter drills in the school. Well, just in case somebody, flips out and comes in here with a gun, we're going to be ready. So we got to take a break in a few minutes, but maybe when we come back, we can talk about what emotional impact is that having when you actually create an environment where classrooms of children are always walking on eggshells, in that sense, always fearful that someone may come in and shoot them to death. And we're thinking, oh, we're making them prepared. I believe that we are traumatizing an entire generation by constantly reminding them that at any moment someone could come in with an automatic weapon and kill everybody in the school. So we're just going to keep you prepared, and we're going to have these drills and prepare you what to do, and we're going to keep talking about it and keep re-traumatizing you so that you don't feel safe at school. I believe we're traumatizing this entire generation doing that. But of course, we can talk about that when we come from the break. And I'm sure there are other people, and we want you to weigh in on this because school just started. And I'm looking at this like this is insane. I don't think it's keeping our children safe. I think it's making them insaner. I think it's making them traumatized, having to live with the expectation that they could be murdered at any moment, and they are feeling like they don't have any control over that. I think it's like living in.
Emotional hostile takeover. Yes.
So we got a couple of comments, I guess, also, if you want to bring those up on the screen, people watching us. And if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1. That lights your number up on our switchboard. We know you got something to say. And if you're already on our switchboard and have a thought you'd like to share, press 1, and we'll open your mic and get your thoughts. You're listening to and watching the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. And this is Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. We got a comment from Beata there that says, Grand Rising, beautiful Queen, loving this
Oh.
discussion. I'm sure it hits home. A
Good
lot of people.
morning, Queen B.
Yeah, sure it is hitting home with a lot of people who have grown up. Ah, yes. And there's our dear brother Quentin D. Alexander saying, Good morning, tune in, have a great day. One love, Chief Temba Taylor. Yes, definitely doing some great work in Liberia. We're going to have him on a show in the future to talk about
Hmm.
some profound things that he's doing around the world. But I find that, like you said, you can get used to anything, and when you normalize
Yes.
insanity, then
Right.
you don't insanity. Yeah. So we're gonna take a break and come right back, and we want to hear from you. And let me check our switchboard. Of course, if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, again, give us a call, 515-605-9325. If you're on our switchboard now, got a thought you'd like to share or a question you'd like to ask for Dr. Debbie Green, call in 515-605-9325. Press 1. We'll open your mic and get your thoughts, and we'll be right back after this quick break. So stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.
Everything you need, what your body needs, is found in nature. So Susan Essentials doesn't do it any other way. Susan Essentials provides your employees and individuals access to over 20,000 nutritional products, and they are shipped direct to your door. Because Susan Essentials is certified in plant-based healing, we're permitted to offer you the best nutritional supplements on the planet. They're non-GMO and sustainably produced, and we take the guesswork out for you. Let Susan Essentials help you take control of your health today.
Oh man, God sent the monthly sun bill today. This sunlight is really expensive, especially during this season. I'll probably have to work overtime to pay it.
Well, you better pay it on time. We don't want the sun to go out and we're sitting up here all day in the dark. Wouldn't it be terrible if God charged us for sunlight? Well, thank God, the light and heat from the sun is free. So why are we paying such high bills for the energy we use in our homes? Because we don't know how to use solar energy, the free energy from the sun. You can convert your regular home to a solar energy home and save tremendously on your electric bill. Take a look at your electric bill. Wouldn't you like to reduce or possibly even eliminate that cost altogether? Let one of our solar consultants show you how. Call today, 312-849-3456, and schedule a free consultation. That's 312-849-3456. Have you ever dreamed of going to exotic places, meeting fascinating people, enjoying uplifting music, and spending nights in a luxurious hotel? Do you look forward to a relaxing vacation where you can walk along the beach or sit in a quiet park and enjoy the sunset or sunrise? Whether you're flying around the world or driving across the country, we will share travel tips that will help you stay safe while you enjoy the journey. Join me every third Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and move around with Deborah here on the Female Solution Show. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak.
All right, we are back.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Dr. Debbie Green. This is Soulful Solution. And we welcome you today with my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. If you're just joining us, we're talking about emotional addictions and experiencing and working through, hopefully, an emotional hostile takeover. And if you've never actually went through anything like this, which you probably have, you just wasn't aware of it. You know, a lot of times we start feeling things that we feel, oh, I can't control this. It's too much. Okay. All right. So there's a good chance that you were definitely experiencing a hostile takeover at that point. Now, the question is, what did you do about it?
Mm.
If you didn't do anything, that means you went from 0 to 100 and you stayed up there in those intensities for a period of time, because most of the time it's usually anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes of an intense feeling, because it has to come back down, because we're just like heartbeats, people. We go up, but we come down. We go up and we come down. We don't stay up. We can't. Our nervous system will not allow that, because our immune systems and all those systems are perfectly created to control intensity. Now, the thing about this is, though, but if we're constantly doing this, we are creating a pattern are responding to external stimuli. External is sounds, people, situations, circumstances, all of those things. We have created our response system. And if our response system is not controlled, then of course we build up a whole lot of internal feelings that have not been processed mentally. And that's how things start to build up to the point where you start seeing people become very hypersensitive to rejection, abandonment, anger, guilt, shame, all of those things. And when we become hypersensitive to them, then here comes toxic energy because it's done with a repetition. Anything that's done repetitiously is going to create a pattern. And that pattern, if it's not a healthy pattern, will also have an unhealthy outcome.
Mm.
That's how it works.
I look at the way we have adjusted to the outcome, the unhealthy outcome, as opposed
Yes,
to getting to the root of the problem so that it doesn't develop that way. And I mean, really, this is not rocket science, people. And even if it was, you could figure it out because everything is something you can resolve. But you look at the person who, for whatever reason, over a period of time, maybe they felt disrespected or disregarded or unloved, and that builds up, and then they become that personality that explodes in anger after they've repressed the emotions, and perhaps they become that person who has gotten so angry now they're ready to just take it out on the world, and so then they're able to take a weapon that maybe they bought for protection or whatever they thought, but anyway, that becomes what they use to explode at people at random, these people who end up you know killing many people. And and then after that happens, and it keeps happening, people, after it happens, then we have this long conversation about mental illness and getting people help, and ending gun violence by safe gun laws. We have this long conversation, but then we still do nothing, and we wait for the next tragedy for that person to explode. And what is this saying? If you do the same thing the same way and expect different results, that is insanity. So,
correct.
knowing that the outcome of that, which is the person who becomes the active shooter someplace, is terrorizing everybody, why are we choosing to not recognize when that behavior is being created by getting rid of the toxic environments we're creating that causes that person to develop in the way they do? That's my question. And I look at what we're doing with our children in having them go through drills of what to do when such a person comes into the school and shoots up everybody. To me, that is the most outrageous thing we could possibly do. And I believe we're going to see the results of that a generation from now, 10, 15, 20 years now. We're going to see some emotional problems in these children that have been
Mm,
taken through this mental process of visualizing someone coming into their school killing everybody. What are your
right.
thoughts? And I know people want to be politically correct, but come on, this show's about truth. We got to get to the root of the problem and fix it, and not deal with this insanity. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, when it comes to the school system or any system, like it could either be the workplace, if you're dealing with adults, I think you need in this situation you need to deal with adults to have them be more proactive than the children. And the only reason why is okay. Let's just take the grade school. Grade
Mm,
school is, I mean, these kids are not, you know, they're totally aware that what's happening in the world. They know about the shootings. They know, everything because that kids pay more close attention to social media than we think they do. So
mm,
they are very fully aware of their environment. But let's take an anxious child, a child that has generalized anxiety disorder for whatever reasons. And, and that child goes to school, what I'm saying? And they are then, like you said, having these trainings, are trying to prepare the children for what may come or whatever the case is. Okay, this particular child is going to not look at it as a child that's not experiencing, you know, uh, anxiety. He or she is going to be very nervous. They're going to start thinking that something may happen to them. So it's a possibility they may get symptoms of paranoia or even delusions, or just
Mm.
imagining things like going to school will be, they'll start feeling very afraid and paranoid, as I said. So don't even want to go to school, don't even want to be there. So
That is,
when they have to catch the bus or whatever, they're like, soon as they get up in the morning, oh God, I gotta go to school. Somebody might break in today, somebody might come in with a gun. That's what they're thinking.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But I guarantee you, none of the board of chairmen of education are thinking like that. They're not thinking that they may have a child that has some type of mental dysfunction, and you're introducing to them how to combat or prepare for someone that could possibly come in and take their life. Listen to that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
I,
saying? So
I, I've heard a
I
lot of
think
children
the
that can't
parents, the
go to school.
parents,
Yeah.
right, but I think the staff should
Hmm.
be the one that's educated. I don't think the children should be exposed to it, and that's just my opinion. But I believe that the staff should be educated because they are the ones that are supposed to protect our children, because that's what we do. When children go to school, they're in their care, so
Yeah.
they have the liability. Like for example, the Texas Udonda, I believe that's what it's called. What happened, that massacre? The doors were open that day because it
Yeah.
was the end of,
Well,
it was
yes.
when school was out. They were about to let out for the summer, so the
Mm.
doors were open. There were no security. There
Right.
was no security on there. Now, you said something earlier I want to address too. You like when people just, all of a sudden go and get the gun. No, it's never all of a sudden. Everything is
Mm.
planned.
Yeah.
People plan things in their mind of self destruction,
Yeah.
because when you destroy someone else, you're destroying yourself. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So they
Yeah.
planned it. And that particular day, what I'm saying? He planned on it all. He was on this website, this app, talking about, oh, he was going to go home and shoot his grandmother. He was going to
Yeah.
go to the school. He told someone this, and they knew it.
Yeah. And they
And they
did not.
didn't take him seriously
Didn't take him
until they
serious.
heard it in the news. Okay, the average person, believe it or not, now we know because, I mean, if someone just comes to tell you, hey, I'm going home and I'm going to kill my whole family because they're getting on my nerves. Okay, you hear it,
But you don't take it seriously
but
until you get on the
but you
news.
don't take it seriously, especially if it's somebody you know,
Yeah.
especially if somebody you know, and they ain't never showed you that hostile side of them. You
Yeah.
just said, oh, he probably just having them on. Now I'm gonna take all of them out when I get home. They're getting on my last nerve.
Mm.
Okay, so guess what? The day he said it, he didn't do it. Okay,
Yeah.
but then a month or two later, it happened.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, he did say he was going to do that. This is why our society,
Mm.
Naima, we are so numb or so adaptive to
Mm.
violence till we don't even know how to even respond to it anymore.
Wow. Wow.
We don't know.
I,
It's numbness.
I'm
I
sure
know that
people are
sounds strange, but it's
trying,
real.
but
I take it
it's true.
seriously because
I
I'm
mean,
a clinician.
yeah, and Well, if you normalize something that's abnormal, that's what happens. How often do we see these horrific actions on the news day after day after day after day? And as long as it's not happening to somebody you don't really feel anything. Now, if it happens to somebody that like 9/11, anybody who had somebody who was living in New York who might have been physically affected by the plane crashes and all that, they were really traumatized because now it's
Right.
personal. My loved one was there, and someone that I know passed away in that tragedy. All those things. So people feel it when it's somebody they know. When it's somebody someplace else, they can be relatively nonchalant about it because it didn't affect them. But you're right. We have gotten to the point
Correct.
of it's been made normal, and so
Right.
these school
Right.
shootings, these grocery store shootings, these theater shootings. We talk about it for a few days, and we have that conversation. Oh, we need more mental health care. Oh, we need more gun control. Oh, we say these things, and then we go back to normal, and never fix the problem, which is the person who has not learned how to properly express their emotions and release them so that they don't explode. And
Right.
what
So,
environment did they live in where
yes.
they learned how to repress like that?
Okay, now listen to what you just said. So, what are we teaching our children? Because this is how the adults respond to it, right? So, we're teaching our children to suppress anger. We're
Repress anger.
teaching our children how to suppress violence.
Yes.
I guarantee you, when there's a serial killing, families don't call each other to a table and say, let's talk about that serial killing that happened yesterday.
They don't.
How do
They
you
don't.
feel about that? Did that affect you?
They
They
don't.
don't do this. They don't mentally
Yeah.
process it. Because
Right.
adults don't mentally process it either. They just keep on going. Right?
Right.
And I mean, what else can we do? Please understand. I understand. I live on this thing, this place called Earth too. But what I'm saying is, we don't want to get paranoid, but then we also want to remain conscious, not
Yeah.
cautious, conscious of what
Just
we are experiencing. Because
right.
if you don't remain conscious of it, you're going to suppress it and
Right.
you're going to take it home with you. And when you take it home with you, it's going to affect your life at some given
Right.
point. And it's like workplace violence.
Right.
Workplace violence is when the home meets the workplace and the workplace meets the home and it
Mm.
collides. Boom. We see this all the time.
All the time.
Again, you got billions of people that walk this earth, and it's like a needle in a haystack. You don't know which one of them are the walking, breathing time bombs.
And I think that's what is
You
creating
don't know.
mass paranoia. I had a relative tell me the other day that they were nervous about going shopping. You never know who might have a gun, and I'm thinking, wow, how do you live like that where you're now so nervous because of what had happened in Georgia and all that and other places. You're so nervous that something that's a normal activity creates anxiety for you, and you're living in that state of anxiety. I mean, over a long period of time, how is that going to affect us as individuals and as a collective society if everybody is always living in a state of anxiety, worried about that person who might explode, and you don't know who it is, you don't know where it is, and when it might happen. And so you're living like that day to day. And that's like walking on eggshells in your own home where you got to worry about the person
Right.
home gonna, oh, you didn't empty the garbage. Let me get out the strap and just beat everybody. I mean, that living like that, that's we've kind of made that we've taken that scenario in the house, that toxic scenario, and made it the society where where everybody's always worried that person that's out of control is going to come and bring violence. That's We can't live like that.
Okay.
How do we
What?
begin
Remember
to
what I just said. Okay. Remember what I said earlier. If a person has any mental illness or any mild, moderate, or severe, they're going to, it's going to affect them even more. So it's a good chance that the person that you're talking about probably has an anxiety disorder that you don't know anything about.
And this,
Either cheat that, right. And so that's what happens. People become more induced to and more paranoid when things start to happen because we experience things through our senses. We see
mm,
it, we hear it, and if we don't know how to process those feelings, considering this external stimuli, that is when things start to you know, tear from the seams. And here comes the thoughts. Oh, I may be in trouble. This may happen to me. And we call that self-defeat, self-destructive mindsets. We call them automatic negative thinking. Another word called ants, right? And that's
automatic,
those
all,
thoughts. Yeah, automatic negative thinking. We call them ants in the clinician world, right?
mm,
So when ants are in your kitchen, it's hard to get them out, right? If you ever had ants in your kitchen,
right,
honey, you
right.
got to go in there. You got to clean everything. You got to spray everything. But then
Yeah,
if you just see one, because you figure if you ever see one, I know it's a whole lot, right? So
yeah,
this is what this is called. All of
yeah,
that energy that is outside is transferred and flows through people whether they realize it or not. Flows through their
mm,
mind, flows through their spirit, flows through their heart, because we're porous,
mm,
Naima. You
mm.
put something on your hand like lotion, look back, it's gone. It just flows through this.
Think,
So the invisible spiritual things also flow through our beings, right? So when
oh,
these things flow through our being, this is energy. You can walk in, okay, let me prove my point. You can walk into a room, no one's saying nothing, and you can pick up a whole lot of stuff when nobody's
yeah,
saying nothing, right?
yeah,
So that's energy. Energy is not seen, it's invisible, but it's very, very powerful, and it
yeah.
flows through your being. So if there's any uh, again, any fear that's already inside that person, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it just intensifies the fear because they need to work through it. They're not processing it. They're not looking at it from a logical state of mind. Okay, am I worrying too much? Is this too much for me? Oh, I don't need to do that because I'm making myself nervous. No, they're not processing it. They're just feeling it. You have some
Wow.
people that go through life feeling and don't think. They
Mm,
feel, they feel everything. And that is because of again, of the environment that they grew up in. They were caught up in their feelings. They were caught up in their emotions because they were suppressing so long till they did not tell anyone, but maybe not even got the opportunity to. So all of this bottled up energy is still there of fear. It's still there. And they can make pretend like it's all there all day long, but at some given point, it's going to come out because it always
mm,
does.
wow.
That's how
That's
powerful our being is. We hold massive amounts of energy, and we're really 80/20, right? And I did research on this back in, it was a little bit about 2018, and I wanted to know, my goal was to study how the mind deals with negative events in life and
mm,
how long it holds on to it, right? So when I
wow.
learned that we're 80/20, we're 80% negative, 20% positive. And that may sound odd, but we are, unless we have to change our processes. Like if you're a
So,
person that processes everything, process mentally, which means you question things, you probe, you examine, you explore, not overly explore or underly explore. You just explore, find a solution, and give it an answer and move. You see what I'm
mm,
saying? But if you don't do that, if you don't explore, if you don't probe, as we get adults and stuff of that nature, as we grow in this thing called life, then we suppress. Do you understand what I'm saying?
mm,
Because you're not probing, you're not trying to figure it out. You're just dealing with it. You just holding it in, and it holds and it gets bigger. Energy doesn't dissipate. It doesn't go
Right.
flat. It just
Bam. So now if we are
it
80/20,
does.
if we're 80/20, is that how we were programmed? Because you're coming out as a child, you're open to whatever you experience. So if in your upbringing what you received is 80% negative feedback and 20% positive feedback, does that then set you almost for life, or does that create that automatic response? Because that's, as a child, you heard more, shut up, sit down, don't touch that, you know uh just negative feedback, you're bad, all that. Maybe every now and then, oh, you're a cute little child, every now and then you might get a word of praise, um but 80% of it was negative. I mean, does that set a person's mindset because of how they're raised? They say your personality is fully formed by the age of 4. So in those first 4 years, if 80% of the feedback you got from the people who raised you was that there's something wrong with you, you know, you're getting on my nerves, be quiet, sit down, shut up, all of these things that make you feel bad. And if that was 80% of your experience and only 20% you got some kind of positive reinforcement, does that kind of set the pattern for your life unless you are made consciously aware of that and then make some conscious choices to undo that? What
Right.
happens?
Yeah. Okay. Your last bit of your conversation is the answer. Okay. So normally, just from my studies, Naomi, normally the generational pattern, I think uh, Zelda Robinson, our Monday host, just asked a quick question, and that's what I was about to address. This was what she said.
Oh,
Grand
says
Rising,
Grand Ride.
beautiful teachers, looking forward to continue to examine and explore this 20%. Our program is a little bit off. Is that why it's generational?
Mm.
And that answer is yes. That answer is yes. So the generation, when I did a study when I was taking my doctoral back in 2019, and the study was uh, actually it was like epigenetics, epigenetics conversing or versus generational curses that was in the Bible. So what
Mm.
my actual what I was actually proving, this is what I was proving, that generational curses were they had a true pattern, right?
Mm.
So epigenetics is when the DNA takes on the environmental change. Okay,
Wow.
like your DNA is definitely contoured, impressed by your environment, actions, behaviors, sounds, all of that, right?
Mm.
So epigenetics was the scientific data, made it very possible, but most of all gave me the results I needed to prove that generational curses do exist. Now, for the sake of understanding, if we had like our great grandfathers over 200 years ago, I just say it like that, right? That had some anger issues due to the fact of their environment, right? Their environment was making it that anger conducive or implementing mentally and emotionally that anger because they were a suppressed generation. Think about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Suppressed
Yeah.
generation. So when they are suppressed generation, think about the word suppressed. Suppressed means that I do not feel, I am not given the permission. I feel repressed, oppressed, and I cannot execute what I'm thinking. I cannot execute what I'm living. I cannot execute in freedom. All right, hold that thought. So here we are in 2023. Question. Are we still suppressed? Question and answer. Yes. Yes.
Mm.
We
Mm.
were born with suppression. We were born with oppression. Now, you said the key. You said when a person realizes
Mm.
something has to come in reality to say, I am the one that is suppressed. I am the one that is oppressed. I am the one that has been experiencing this, not just in my here and now, but also from my generational pool. Okay, here we go. So one has to realize that, right? It doesn't matter whether you realize it that you're 12 years old to 100, as long as you realize it. Now, once you realize it, then you have to have a productive change. So now that 20% that I'm talking about is going to overflow and do a hostile takeover of the 80%. And when I say hostile takeover, and this the word of God clearly says the kingdom of God suffers by violence, but the
Mm.
violence take it by force. Okay, that word right there, where's the kingdom of God? It's not here, not there, but
Yeah.
inside of you.
Right.
Inside of you. Suffers by what? Violence. Where's the violence? It's all around us.
Mm.
It was born inside of us. It
Mm.
was innate
It's
because
inside of
our
it.
ancestors experienced violence. Our
Yeah.
ancestors experienced oppression. Our ancestors, they experienced it. So it quite naturally it's going to be in the bloodline. You see what I'm
Mm.
saying? But again, when one realizes, oh, okay, this is how I'm reacting. This is how I'm reacting to my pain. This is how I'm reacting to disappointment. This is how I'm reacting to my environment, right? When they realize that, then it's up to them to exchange and reprogram
Uh,
themselves, right? We're teaching like a person like me that helps people to understand this is what you're doing. You're still living in a victim mentality. You're still living
mm.
and thinking with a slave actual mindset. So when you remove the victim mentality, you're going to put back empowerment. I am empowered today. I am
Yes.
empowered to know who I am today. I know that I cannot change anything outside of myself. So I have to let that be and only change how I'm responding to that thing, to that
Mm. I
person,
really,
to that
I
sound.
really,
You
yeah.
see what I'm saying? That's when
That,
everything starts to change. Otherwise, Naima, it gets worse. It goes back to the 80. Hold on, I'm almost done. The 80% starts to expand and expand and expand till it does a hostile takeover. Now, guess what? You have lost
oh,
your identity. You have lost your mind. We heard it, and they don't even know. This is the scary thing about it, my sister. They don't even know because they have no self awareness, they have no emotional availability for themselves.
wow.
You see what I'm
We got
saying?
to explore that. We got to explore how
Is
we
that not deep?
it.
Woo!
That's
I'm
real deep.
glad I'm free,
Uh,
God. Thank you. I'm
we're
trying to
gonna
help
take
y'all.
our
Come on,
last
go get
break.
free.
We're gonna take our last break, and then we're gonna come back and bring us to the point of
Woo!
freedom, because so many people
Freedom.
are imprisoned by their fear, their anger, their anxiety, and it's
Come on
generational.
now.
I think of
We gonna
so
do this.
we're gonna do this, y'all.
We
Stay
gonna
with us.
do this.
We'll be right back after this last break. We want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We got a caller on the line. We'll get to you when we come back. And if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call.
Telling you,
515
don't miss it.
9325. Number on the screen. If you're watching us on Soulful Solutions on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live, again, 515-605-9325. Press 1. That lights your number up on our switchboard so we can open your mic and hear what you have to say or hear your questions for Dr. Debbie Green. We will be right back after this last break, so stay with us.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on cable TV channel 19 in Chicago. In other cities, check your local cable listings. Mama Joy. And I'm Reverend Rosemary. Join us every second Saturday on the 2 p.m. Central Time here on the Female Solutions Global Radio TV show for Neighborship of Joy. We'll have powerful conversations inviting women to walk in the light. So call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak to the host. You can also join us live on the Female Solution Facebook page and YouTube channel. So see you on the second Saturday on the Neighborship of Joy. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
Alrighty.
I got a request. Someone just said, matter of fact, Queen Zelda said, this is what she told me. I tell you, I get on my soapbox show. I can't help it because it means a lot to me that people are free. Awesome, Dr. Debbie. That last part bears repeating. It means a lot to me that people are
Yes.
free. I guess because of what I've been doing for the last God, 15 years, I've seen so many people in bondage. When you
Yeah.
walk and you be around people who are extremely depressed to the point where they no longer want to live, it actually changes everything in your life. That, like, when I started this journey, I said, I know if I can remove the victim mentality, I know they'll be free. So it had to be a strategic way of talking to a person and showing them first how they became victimized. Once you show them how they became victimized, then you actually show them their actions of how they are living with victimization. And then the next step is then changing the way they think about all of that so they can make a decision. Do I stay here or do I leave? Because I've been suffering so long, and they got so comfortable in being enslaved mentally. They got
Yeah.
so comfortable. Remember, I said earlier, anything we do with repetition, it becomes a habit. So what were they doing? They were addicted to unhappiness. They were literally addicted to it. And so even when it wasn't there, they were looking for it. I've had patients and clients that would tell me, well, everything seems to be going all right. I don't know how long this gonna last. I said, why would you look for it to stop?
Right. Why? Yeah. Why are
you
you
know,
right?
because they addicted. That's their withdrawal system. That's their safe spot. They know what it is to live dysfunctional, but they don't know what it is to feel good, and they're afraid of feeling good because they think one day they're going to feel bad. I know that sounds weird, but
That's it.
that's the way
That's
the
what it
brain is.
is. Fear of the disappointment. One day this good feeling is going to
Correct.
be gone and then I'll feel bad again. So let me just
Yes.
anticipate feeling bad and then let me just go ahead and feel bad.
And that's
So
self
that's
sabotage, though.
bad.
It's self sabotage. That's what I
Yes.
tell them. I say, get, and you know what I say to them when they tell me that? I say, I'm so sorry. It's not an option for you. It's not an
Mm.
option for you to think that you're going to tear your being down. It's not an option for you to speak negative of your life. I said, just because you ain't used to freedom, that don't mean you're going to get in your way. So I need you to move.
Mm. Okay. One thing
You got
that
to move.
wow. You know, one thing that I'm saying, and maybe this probably is a whole show in itself, but you mentioned, the generations ago where people were in a state of forced servitude and
Yes.
made to feel helpless and did come out of it. I mean, it was kind of an explosion of the nation. War is like multiple explosions, but the society changed. And yes, there was resistance. There were some people who didn't want to change the social structure. However, over time, we have done that. Now, there might still be people with attitudes of resentment, but they don't have power over you. No one has
Right.
power over you. You
Hmm.
have the capacity to create your life as you want it. I run into so many people who keep going back to the thought that other people are suppressing them and controlling them and not allowing them to become who they'd like to be.
Right.
They're holding
Yeah.
on to that, no matter how many
Mhm.
other examples we have of people who have broken out of that mindset and gone on to do some magnificent things. They are stuck in that belief that they're being repressed. And it seems like they create that condition even when it doesn't exist. And because they're carrying the energy of it, it ends up attracted to them. If you're always believing, oh, these people are prejudiced, they're going to fire me from this job. All these people are prejudiced, they're not going to give me a good grade in school. All these people are prejudiced, when they stop me in traffic, they're going to try to shoot me. I mean, if that thought, and you're carrying that thought and that paranoia and that energy of fear and anxiety and repressed anger that your ancestors may have felt because they may have felt helpless to change the situation, then you keep recreating that in your life, even when it doesn't exist. And that's what I'm hoping we can help people get out of the thought that you must fear the society, you must fear people in the society, you don't have control over what's going to happen to you, and therefore you're a victim. Because if all of us are energy and all of us are contributing to the energy, you, with the power of love that is the controlling creative power of the universe, can walk into a hostile room and change the energy, and
Right.
you can
Right.
raise the vibration and you can create
Yes.
joy. Comedians do it all the time. That's why somebody like a little bitty Kevin Hart can fill a whole stadium full of people and they can all be laughing.
Hmm.
He's creating energy of joy, and he's just one little man. But we see people do it all the time. We have that power. We all have that power to create a higher energy, even if the energy
Correct.
around is negative. So none of us
Yes.
are. If we could just learn
Yes.
that. So how do we?
Well,
How do
this
we?
is it. What the thing about is we have learned helplessness first. And that's
Yeah.
what you were talking about at the beginning. Learned helplessness is when you feel you have no power to change your situation. So what happens is you then create other things to justify or solidify, you know what I'm saying? Those type of thoughts. Like a person will then, like you said, oh, I can't do this because they're doing that. And that's not true. Because we all we've seen many people do what they want to do and not pay attention to what other people are doing, right? Okay. And it's only because of the mentality. We got to go back to the mentality. If you are not free, you are in bondage. Ain't no gray shaded area.
Mm.
Either you're going to be free or you're not.
Right.
Some people are sometime free. Sometime I'm not free. No, it's not. Either you're going to free or you're not. If you're going back and forth, no, that's called struggle.
Mm.
That's called struggle. Okay, so if you're still struggling because you're questioning your freedom, it's because you're not used to being free. You got to
Mm.
get used to being free. Freedom is a practiced, peaceful action that requires a consistent flow. A consistent flow. And you got to learn how to mind your business, first of all.
Mm.
Most people don't mind their business in life, they mind
I get.
other people's business.
Mm.
Okay? But if you mind your own business, that means you are dealing with your own affairs, you're dealing with your own mindset, you're dealing with your own stuff. But again, you're not shifting blame. Oh, I'm not this because you're that. You're doing this to make me do
Mm.
this. Nobody can make anyone do anything.
That's right.
Remember, repression is a choice. Oppression is a choice. It wasn't a choice over 400 years ago. But
Well,
now it is a choice to be oppressed or depressed, right? So if
even
I'm
that's a
making the
choice.
choices, hey,
Yeah.
if I'm making the choices, you said something earlier I want to address because I didn't get the opportunity to. You say, well,
Mm.
why would a person with children stay in a dysfunctional marriage for the children?
Yeah.
And I said to you, because they want to do it,
Yeah.
right? They want to do it. But the thing about this is they don't understand the repercussions till later
Right.
on. Because what's going to happen is this, I've seen this millions of times. Those children will become a product of that environment. So when they are, if they ever choose, whoever the parents are, whether they dissipate, which is called divorce, or whether they staying together until one dies off or until whatever. But that doesn't change the repercussions on the children. And most likely, the one, if it's not one or two, if they got 5 kids or how many, some of those children, be it one, two, or three, is going to build up hostility towards their parents
Mm.
because you didn't allow me to be in a peaceful environment. I felt forced to stay here, and I don't want to stay here. That's the reason why
Wow.
children run away. That's the reason
Yeah.
why they become, they have all of this depression, they have all of this anxiety, they have this ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorders, because of the repercussions of their childbearing years. I call it childbearing years because guess what? Even though they out the womb, they still got to bear something, right?
Mm.
Okay, truth be told, we've all experienced some type of repression, oppression in our lives when we were children. Okay. But again, if you don't have no self awareness that you are this dysfunctional person, okay, you can become a narcissist, right? You grew up with a person that was prideful, that was always taskmastering you. So your mind is like, oh, it's all about me and not about you. Because I had to survive. I had to survive. But guess what? Now you're raising your children with the same iron hand and don't even realize it. Until
Mm.
one day, one of your children may come up after they have gotten grown. Oh, I don't like you. I never did. I never
Ooh.
did like you. And
Wow.
children from the ages of 12, listen, I'm so serious. From 12 to 17, because that's the teenage years, I've
Yeah.
seen and sat with children, adolescents, teenagers. They turn around and tell their parents, I hate you. I always hated you.
Woo.
I can't, yes, ma'am, because you forced me to be in a situation that I didn't want to be in. You forced me to look at how daddy beat you. You forced me to look how, you were accepting him when he was cheating in your life. You forced me to stay in this environment. And now you
Mm.
want me to be all right with it. and I'm still dealing with the abuse. I'm still dealing with the abuse that my father did to me. I'm still dealing because someone forced you to be there because you
Mm.
were a child and you could not make the decision to exit. You have some of them that even come to uh, a term, what they call emancipation,
Yes. They want to be
right?
emancipated from their
I
parents,
don't want to be in the family
forcing
anymore
your
because
parents.
all y'all dysfunctional. And I
Yes.
choose not to be. We've seen adolescents do that from the age of 13 years old to
Mm.
17. No longer
Wow.
want to be. So it gets so bad. Listen to this. This is the last part, and I'm going to be quiet. It gets so bad till they have to go into residential. Residential is
Mm.
where they're taken out of the home and put into another place for
Rather than living
years
locked.
until they become of age
Wow.
because
There
they're
you have
so dysfunctional. They become hostile. They become
yes.
hostile. Not only that, not only do they become hostile. I just read this recently. 15-year-old that was actually taken. He was in foster care. He was in foster care to the point where the parents, for some reason, did not want whatever. I don't know the background history on this kid yet, but he is so hostile to where he's in the group home. He has threatened everyone. He said he's going to kill everyone, right? Now, he
Oh
doesn't
wow.
have a gun yet. He said he's going to kill everyone. And if he can't kill everyone with a gun, he's going to use a stick to stab them, right? Okay.
Oh
So,
wow.
of course, they send this child to get an evaluation. You see what I'm saying? They send him
Mm-hmm.
to get an evaluation. And the evaluation at this point, is saying that, he's what they call ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. He is on all of this medication for his psychotropic issues. Okay. And now they wanted him to, get other therapy, but he's so angry.
Mm.
He's so angry. He again, emotional hostile takeover. He can't control his impulses. Now he's 15. So, truth be told, if he doesn't sort it out, if someone somewhere doesn't help this child to get back to his levels, which we call baseline, if he doesn't get back to those levels, and he still have this ideation, which is homicide ideation, because that's what it's called, okay,
Mm-hmm.
homicide ideation. If he doesn't get back to his baseline, he's gonna have to be taken out of society. So he would never
Wow.
live.
Wow.
Do you see what I'm saying? Now,
And
even when he
they're
gets to 18,
yeah.
he's going to come out of the group home because he can only be in there until he's 18 years old.
Oh,
Now,
so we
if
got
he still
years.
has the same mindset,
Wow.
I'm telling you
Wow.
how it's created, my dear. This is how it's
Yeah.
created. A lot of times we don't know the background on these people that are serial killers. We don't know the background on these people who are going to take the
Mm.
gun and killing all their family and then turn the guns on themselves. You don't know the background history. But if
Wow.
you went back in the history, then you can see, yes, ma'am, definitely
Wow.
issues in
More.
the tissues.
Yes, we got a
This
caller. Uh,
this is what
we're gonna
well,
773 4.
it's a deed. What's your
It's a
my sister's
oh, and
feature?
before we take our caller, Zelda Robinson says 2 of my sisters, 3 children, both have those same feelings and issues. I helped raise them and see how it affects the entire family. Thanks, Dr. Debbie. Yes,
Uh-huh.
these children. Well, we got a caller. Caller, you got about a minute before we wrap up. We want to make sure we give you a chance to speak your piece. 773 4. Yes. Go right ahead. Give us your name where you're calling from, your comment. Hey,
Greetings,
Mama D.
global transformers, Leo and Yasha Shalom,
Oh,
Grand Rising. As a certified Montessori educator that educates the subconscious brains of children under the age of 4
Mm.
through the 9 senses when they have 80% of all their information if they live to be age 2000. And they are taught no, no, no. You never outgrow your need for no because that's what's programmed program in your brain, and that intergenerational epigenetics and heritage DNA is not just something that we imagine, because when Reverend Dr. Prophet King talked about 100 years later, 1863 to 1963, he omitted the 246 years of being a movable property thing called chattel. And when you when you're not just a motherless child, you're a fatherless child, because your slave master mama has taught you everything that you knew, and you did not overcome it in 60 years because we refuse to, as a society, to comprehend the damage that has been caused through our genes and our DNA alteration.
That's right.
And we have to separate ourselves and get our own category so we can deal with our repair. Crimes against our humanity and Jim Crow genocide is still going on today, and we got to deal with that.
Yes,
ma'am. And I
ma'am.
want to know, why don't we?
Well, I thank you so much, Mama D. We appreciate you as always, and you can hear Mama D. Of course, she's got so much wisdom. If you listen to talk radio, you can hear Mama D on many stations, but right here on the Female Solution on Saturdays. But this is one of the reasons why, and I know we're about to wrap up, our book, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, it's always sold out. It's always sold out. We're coming out with the audio book as well as the Kindle version of Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, so that we can heal from this. We must move forward. As Dr. Debbie is saying, we have to put something else into the next generation so that we are not still reliving this trauma and recreating it and feeling like victims, because we are not anymore. We have power in our hands to create the society we want to create, but we got to change the mindset. And like Mama D is saying, this no. We have to change that to yes in the way we raise our children. Dr. Debbie, last words before we go.
Well, I tell you what, as I said, one has to become responsible for one's own life. If every human being was responsible for their own life and actually live to the highest self that God created us to live, then of course we would not have issues in our tissues, right? Okay, so being that is not the case, then reach one, teach one. If someone could just say to another human being, hey, you are loved. I don't have to know you to love you. I don't have to be introduced to you to understand that you should be and is accepted by me. I think again, love is secure. Love is secure to all things, and that's what we cannot forgive, and that's what creates the non-loving pattern that's inside of us. But except one thing is true: as long as we carry the banner, which means I am somebody, regardless of what I've been through, and I'm going to love myself until I heal. That's what I want to leave with you.
60 seconds.
Love that so much.
Thank you all, folks. Facebook, please subscribe to our channel. I know I'm just new and I probably only come over here on Thursdays, but I'm actually getting ready to create something different. It's called Rise. It's getting ready to go forward starting on the 15th of September. You're going to be seeing my face all over the place. Rise, reaching inward for spiritual empowerment. Hey, remember that.
And tell us the YouTube channel so they can go and subscribe. And where do they find you on YouTube?
Well, it's Dr. Debbie Green.
Dr. Debbie Green. Go to YouTube.
Dr. Debbie Green. Yes, it's going to be created. It'll be on there soon. So I'll be actually coming back on Facebook. We're doing everything, all social media. We're just implementing. It should be done by the 5th of September. So again, stay tuned so you can learn a little something, okay?
All right. Look out for it. See you next time. Join us tomorrow for Health and Wellbeing with Beata, right here on the Female Solution.
It's not created yet, Zelda. I'll let you know. Not on YouTube, not yet. I'm going to let you know, though. Trust me. Love you.
You can also hear today's show on the
Call them back tomorrow. If we didn't get to the call, they'll be calling late.
www.facebook.com/thefemalesolution. Leave your comments about today's show.
That's all right. They got to call early, like you said.
On the website at www.naimalatif.com. That's www. www.naimahlat